MASH*, 1972 to 1983, was not just a renowned dramedy series. It became an enduring symbol of a turbulent era. Centered around a mobile army surgical hospital during the Korean War, the show captured the resilience of doctors and nurses, particularly the brilliant surgeon Hawkeye Pierce, as they faced the horrors of war with humor, camaraderie, and unwavering humanity. However, behind the spotlight and laughter, the real lives of the cast members tell a far more tragic and heartbreaking story. In this video, we delve into the devastating fates that befell these beloved actors. From sudden, tragic deaths to long and grueling battles with illness, their stories reveal the painful reality hidden behind the laughter, a reality where sorrow quietly took the place of joy on and off the screen. William Christopher was born in 1932, a man of quiet dignity whose warm presence on screen, as Father Francis Mulcahy in MASH*, brought comfort to millions. He was the chaplain, the gentle soul in the madness of war, the one who held fast to faith when all else crumbled. His portrayal of the kind-hearted, soft-spoken priest resonated deeply with audiences, as he brought genuine warmth and compassion to the role. But off-screen, his life was a quiet struggle against the relentless tide of time. Married to Barbara O'Connor, their love endured, but their greatest challenge came with their son Ned, who was diagnosed with autism. In an era when understanding of the condition was still limited, William and his wife faced an uphill battle, navigating the complexities of raising a special needs child in a world that often lacked empathy. His devotion to his son led him to become an advocate for autism awareness, using his public platform to push for better resources and education. Yet, the weight of these struggles, combined with the pressures of a long Hollywood career, must have taken its toll. In his later years, the man who once delivered hope on television found himself in a battle he could not win: cancer. It was a long fight, one that slowly drained his strength. As his health declined, he withdrew further from public life, spending his last days surrounded by family. On New Year's Eve of 2016, while the world celebrated the promise of a new year, he slipped away in his Pasadena home, leaving behind memories of kindness and a role that had come to define him. The gentle priest, who had so often offered solace to the wounded, had finally found his own peace. Kelly Nakahara was born in 1948, a bright and effervescent spirit whose presence on MASH*, brought warmth and humanity to the role of Lieutenant Kelly Yamato, a dedicated nurse who stood resilient in the face of war's horrors. Though often a background character, her moments of heartfelt emotion made her unforgettable. Her gentle humor, her quiet longing for Hawkeye, her unshakable dedication to her patients. But Hollywood rarely gave Asian American actors the recognition they deserved, and despite her talent, leading roles remained elusive. Away from the screen, Kelly built a life as a devoted wife to David Wallet and a loving mother to their children. Yet even in the warmth of family, shadows loomed. In her later years, she faced a battle that no strength of spirit could overcome: cancer. The disease, ruthless and unyielding, took hold of her, and as the months passed, it stole away the light that had shone so brightly in her. On February 16, 2020, surrounded by those who loved her, she took her final breath in her Pasadena home, the same city where her MASH*, co-star William Christopher had also passed. Her loss was felt deeply, another quiet, yet devastating farewell to a woman whose kindness had left an indelible mark. Harry Morgan, born in 1915, was a man of sharp wit and steely command, the beloved Colonel Sherman T. Potter in MASH*. His craggy face and gravelly voice brought authority wrapped in warmth, a father figure to those under his command. Before MASH*, he was a character actor in over 100 films, often playing men of principle, from the gruff, yet caring officer Bill Gannon in Dragnet to Western lawmen and hard-nosed military leaders. He had the rare gift of commanding respect while exuding kindness, a combination that made Colonel Potter one of the most beloved characters in television history. But his own life was not without turmoil. His first marriage, to Eileen Detchon, lasted over 40 years and seemed a rare Hollywood success story. But when she passed in 1985, a darkness settled over him. The loss of his lifelong partner devastated him, and though he remarried Barbara Bushman, happiness seemed elusive. In 1996, his second marriage was rocked by scandal when he was arrested for domestic violence. The allegations, which he later dismissed as a misunderstanding, cast a shadow over his otherwise untarnished legacy, shocking fans who had only known him as the wise and kind Colonel Potter. Though the charges were later dropped, the incident served as a grim reminder that even the most revered figures can battle demons behind closed doors. Age took its toll, as it does on all men, and Harry found himself retreating into the twilight of his years, his body failing, his memories fading. His final years were marked by the slow decline of old age, as he lived quietly with his family, slipping further from the public eye. On a cold December morning in 2011, at the age of 96, he breathed his last breath in Los Angeles, his legacy secure, but his final years tinged with loneliness and the inevitable march of time. The commander of the 4077th had fought his final battle, and this time, there would be no victory. Alan Arbus entered the world on February 15, 1918, and while many knew him as the insightful and sharp-witted psychiatrist Major Sidney Friedman on MASH*, his life had already been steeped in deep artistic pursuits long before the show. Once a fashion photographer alongside his wife, the legendary Diane Arbus, his world took a tragic turn when their marriage crumbled. Diane, struggling with depression, died by suicide in 1971, leaving Alan to carry the weight of that sorrow for the rest of his life. He reinvented himself as an actor, finding unexpected success in Hollywood, yet always haunted by the ghosts of his past. Despite his outward charm, there was an undercurrent of melancholy in his performances, perhaps a reflection of the pain he carried. He lived to an old age, but time could not erase the wounds of loss. On April 19, 2013, he passed away from congestive heart failure, his final days spent in quiet reflection, surrounded by memories of a life both brilliant and unbearably sorrowful. John Orchard was born in 1928, a man whose towering frame and deep voice belied the often forgotten struggles of a character actor in Hollywood's unforgiving machine. Best known for his role as Captain Ugly John Black in MASH*, he was the unit's anesthetist, a background presence in the operating room, just as Orchard himself often found his career overshadowed by more prominent names. Though he later reprised a role in the short-lived Walter Asterisk spin-off, the spotlight never truly found him again. A British actor, he had the charm and talent to go further, but fate had other plans. As years passed, his presence on screen became scarce, and like so many before him, he found himself fading into Hollywood's cruel oblivion. When he passed away in 1995, it was cancer that took him, but perhaps the real killer was obscurity, the slow erosion of a dream unfulfilled. Richard Lee Sung was born in 1930, a man of boundless energy and a chameleon-like ability to slip into roles that Hollywood so often reserved for caricatures rather than fully realized people. He played various Korean characters on MASH*, including Kim Luke and Cho, lending an authenticity that the show desperately needed. Despite his comedic timing and sharp wit, he was often relegated to minor, nameless parts, his heritage both a ticket into the industry and an invisible ceiling pressing down on his aspirations. A man of many talents, he was also a stand-up comedian, bringing laughter even as his own life bore the quiet burden of unspoken frustrations. He lived long, but the glitz of Hollywood never fully embraced him. When he left this world in 2021, it was not with the fanfare of a legend, but with the whisper of a man who had given so much and received so little in return. Edward Winter was born in 1937, a man whose face became synonymous with the deluded paranoia of Colonel Samuel Flagg in MASH*, a character both absurd and chilling in his blind devotion to secrecy. He also briefly appeared as Captain Halloran, but it was Flagg, flamboyant, fanatical, and disturbingly unhinged, that left a mark. Beyond the Korean War satire, Winter's talents extended to films such as Porky's 2, The Next Day, and television series like Project UFO and The Twilight Zone. Yet for all his professional success, his personal life was one of quiet tragedy. He lived much of his later years in relative obscurity, the bright lights of Hollywood dimming as younger actors took the roles that might have once been his. His final days were not glamorous. He succumbed to Parkinson's disease in 2001, a cruel affliction that slowly robbed him of movement, speech, and the very essence of his once dynamic presence. He died far from the laughter he had once inspired, slipping away at the age of 63, leaving behind a legacy that would outlast him. But in the end, legacies are cold comfort to the dying. Eileen Saki was born in 1943, a woman whose talent and warmth brought life to the role of Rosie, the kind-hearted and resilient bar owner in MASH Star. Her presence on screen was a quiet but powerful one, offering soldiers a brief reprieve from the relentless horrors of war. Yet, beyond the laughter and camaraderie of the show, Saki's own battle was one fought in silence. In her later years, cancer crept into her body, a merciless thief that robbed her of time and health. Even as the illness spread, she faced it with grace, much like Rosie welcomed weary souls into her bar. On May 1st, 2023, the world lost her, a life extinguished too soon. The battle she fought in real life was one she could not win, and the curtain fell on a life filled with kindness and unspoken sorrow. Judy Farrell was born in 1938. Her presence on MASH * as Nurse Abel a subtle but essential part of the show's heartbeat. She was more than just a background character. She was the soft murmur of humanity in the chaos of war, the steady presence among the madness. Off-screen, her life intertwined with that of actor Mike Farrell, her husband for 2 decades, before the weight of time and struggles pulled them apart. Their love story, once filled with promise, unraveled into divorce in 1983, a heartbreak that echoed in her later years. Though she continued acting, her brightest days seemed to dim as time marched forward. In April 2023, a devastating stroke left her unable to communicate, trapped within her own body, her voice, the very thing that had given life to so many characters, silenced. The fight was brief but cruel, and on April 2nd, she slipped away, leaving behind a world that barely noticed the loss of yet another soul who had once made us believe in the kindness of humanity. Johnny Hamer, 1920 to 1989. Johnny Hamer, born in 1920, gave life to Sergeant Zelmo Zale, a character known for his fiery temper and relentless feuding with Klinger. He was a man of many voices, lending his talents to animation and narration, yet never quite stepping into the spotlight. Before MASH *, he appeared in Annie Hall, 1977, History of the World, Part 1, 1981, and a variety of television roles that never seemed to elevate him beyond the status of a character actor. He longed for recognition, but Hollywood is cruel to those who do not fit neatly into stardom. His personal life was marred by dissatisfaction, a sense of unfulfilled promise. Despite his talent, he was never a household name. In 1989, he passed away from cancer, a disease as merciless as the industry he had spent his life trying to conquer. His death, like much of his career, was overshadowed by bigger names, his legacy left as a whisper in the annals of television history. Larry Linville Singay 29, Thang 9 Nam 1939 Tai Ojai, California, Hoakai. Ong Dong Vi Thu Ta Frank Burns Trong MASH * 2 Nam 1972, Din Nam 1977. Nam Bat Duok Su Kim Koi Va Thoi Dao Duk Jia Kwa, Nin Vat Bang Mot Kia, Kan Hai Hoak. Montrin Dien Kwa Linville De Tao Nun Mot Dao and Dang No Cho and Hung, Nan Vat Ko Nong Lu Khan. Jupan Duok Tsong, Nan Va Ko Mot Luong Nuoi Him Mo Quang Hyatt. On I Ko Mot Su Ing Geep De Dang Tren Tri and Hin Va San Kao. Sud Hien Trong Kak Chuang Trin Nu the Lovinest Va the Best of Times. Linville De Ket Han Hai Lon. Ca Hai Du Ket Tuk Bang Vik Ly Han Va Sao Nai, Ong 5 At Lon Voice Su Ko Don. Huok Doi Kwa Ong Duok, Dan Dao Bang and Hung by Kich Kan Nan. Trong Du Ko Tsai Chet Quan Nuoi Ban Than John Ritter, Junai Doan Hung Sao Sak Den Ong. Linville De Chien Dao Voi Kan Ben Ong Thursday Trong Nu Nam Va, Sao Kai Tre Kwa Huok Phao Thuit, Ong Buon Ba, Kwa Doi Veo Gate 10 Thang 4 Nam 2000, O Tuoi 60 Du Bien Chung Kwa Ben Vien Foi, De Lai Di Sen De Tien Koi Va and Hung, Nan Vat Ko Quang. Marcia Strassman was born in 1948, a woman of beauty and warmth whose gentle presence as Nurse Margie Cutler provided fleeting moments of tenderness amid the madness of war in MASH Star. But her real fame would come later, in the role of the long-suffering wife in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, where she played Diane Selinsky. Her career shimmered, but it was her personal battles that truly defined her story. Her marriage to director Robert Collector was fraught with heartbreak, ending in divorce in 1989. She bore one daughter, Elizabeth, but the happiness of motherhood could not shield her from the relentless cruelty of fate. In 2007, she was diagnosed with advanced breast cancer, a merciless adversary that spread to her bones, a slow, painful invasion that left her struggling for years. The disease showed no mercy, stripping away her strength and trapping her in a body that betrayed her. She died in 2014 at the age of 66, her voice silenced, her laughter stilled. The world moved on, but those who loved her were left with an ache that no passage of time could ever truly erase. David Ogden Stiers was born in 1942, a man of immense intelligence and refined talent, whose role as the aristocratic yet deeply lonely Major Charles Winchester in MASH * made him one of the most complex characters in the series. Unlike his predecessor, Frank Burns, Charles was not a buffoon but a man of skill, intellect, and hidden depths, a surgeon who masked his pain with arrogance. David's own life mirrored his characters in many ways: his towering presence, his cultured demeanor, his lifelong love for music. He was a gifted voice actor, lending his rich, sonorous tones to Disney villains like Cogsworth in Beauty and the Beast and Governor Ratcliffe in Pocahontas. But for all his successes, he lived much of his life in secrecy, hiding his true self in an era when being openly gay in Hollywood could destroy a career. It was not until later in life that he finally embraced his truth, but by then, time had already begun to slip away. In 2018, he faced a foe even his commanding presence could not defeat: bladder cancer. The disease ravaged him, stripping away his strength, until at last, on March 3rd, he passed away in his Oregon home. His absence left a void, a final curtain drawn on a man who had spent his life balancing brilliance with isolation. The brilliant surgeon of the 4077th was gone, leaving behind a legacy of sophistication and sorrow. Patricia Stevens was born in 1945, and she brought warmth and quiet strength to the role of Lieutenant Baker, RN, in MASH *, a character that often provided a calming presence amid the chaos of war. Her face was familiar to audiences of the era, yet her name never reached the level of widespread recognition that many of her co-stars enjoyed. Beyond her time on MASH *, she had a modest career in television, making appearances in a few other series. But the industry was often unkind to women who did not fit the rigid mold of stardom. Off-screen, her life was marked by quiet struggles, relationships that never quite brought the happiness she sought, and a career that seemed to stall just as it was beginning. The later years of her life were spent battling illness, her presence gradually fading from public memory. When she passed away on May 26, 2010, from complications of lung cancer, it was a heartbreaking end for a woman whose work had touched many, yet whose departure from this world went largely unnoticed. Roy Goldman, 1932 to 2009. Roy Goldman, born in 1932, was a quiet but ever-present figure in MASH *, appearing in numerous episodes as a corpsman, medic, or simply as himself. Though never a leading man, he was a steadfast presence, a soldier of the screen who blended into the chaotic world of war-torn Korea. His filmography was modest, scattered appearances in Love, American Style, Mission, Impossible, and The Odd Couple, but MASH * was his most consistent home. Yet, his career never soared beyond the background, leaving him an unsung hero of television. As the years wore on, Hollywood, indifferent and unrelenting, forgot him. He lived out his later years in obscurity, the echoes of laughter from the MASH * set a distant memory. When cancer claimed him in 2009, there was no grand obituary, no tearful tributes from former co-stars, just the quiet departure of a man who had spent a career in the shadows, now fading entirely into them. Wayne Rogers, 1933. Wayne Rogers, born in Birmingham, Alabama, in 1933, was a man who carried an effortless charm and a rebellious streak, both of which defined his unforgettable performance as Captain Trapper John McIntyre on MASH *. A Princeton graduate with aspirations beyond Hollywood, Rogers originally auditioned for the role of Hawkeye Pierce, but found himself drawn to the freewheeling, wisecracking Trapper John. He was an essential part of the show's early magic, playing off Alan Alda's Hawkeye with impeccable timing and infectious energy. Yet, beneath the laughter and camaraderie, resentment brewed. Rogers grew increasingly frustrated with the creative direction of the show, believing that his character was being overshadowed by Alda's ever-expanding role. By the end of the third season, he walked away from the show without signing a contract, a move that, despite his hopes, proved costly. Although he later found some success in the medical sitcom House Calls, he never again reached the cultural prominence he had enjoyed with MASH star. Disillusioned with acting, he turned to finance and became a successful investor. But even financial success could not fill the void left by his departure from Hollywood. His personal life, too, had its share of turbulence. His first marriage to actress Mitzi McWhorter ended in divorce after nearly 4 decades, leaving behind a history of unresolved emotions and fractured ties. Though he remarried, Rogers was never truly able to escape the ghosts of the past. As the years wore on, the man who had once been so full of life found himself gradually slipping into obscurity. Then, in December 2015, pneumonia took hold of his aging body, and despite the best efforts of doctors, there was nothing left to be done. He died on the last day of the year, December 31st, 2015, at the age of 82. The world mourned briefly, but as is often the case in Hollywood, the moment passed. The golden days of MASH * were long gone, and with his passing, another thread of its legacy quietly unraveled. What do you think about the passing of the actors from MASH *, and who do you remember the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to catch the latest videos.